get to where they're trying to going better. So we'll change things like buttons and imagery and verbiage just to kind of get people to where they're trying to go.
My name is Brandon. I'm a creative director at Trinity Insight. Kind of my role there is to make sure that the design team not only has the tools and resources available to do their job, but also to help redesign websites, assist in testing of changing things like Molly mentioned, button colors and things like that to improve our partners' websites.
Well, for me, I actually kind of grew up a lot around programming. My dad is a computer programmer, and one of my older brothers is actually a programmer as well. So growing up, I had a lot of that around me, and my brother would actually teach me little bits of code here and there that at the time I didn't really find any use for. But now that I'm kind of in this role, it's been really helpful to kind of have that background. We also used to have computer games that we used to just change little bits of kind of some easier code to kind of change how the game worked, so that was always fun.
For me, it was when I went to college. I originally went to college for graphic design, primarily for doing like print magazines and things like that, but I had a class where one of the projects that we did, we were instructed to create a game for kids, and I created a game called Math Baseball, basically just solving simple arithmetic problems, and I would have to code this to make it so if someone answered the question right, the baseball player would hit it, and there'd be fireworks going off and all kinds of things. It was really exciting to do, so that kind of fueled me to keep learning about programming.
And Molly, just because I know you, can you tell them what your major was in college? Because I think that's kind of different, you know.
Yeah, I actually went to college to be an art teacher or a graphic designer, so I really didn't go into any sort of coding for school.
Yeah.
I didn't go to school for it, but after college, I decided to go into graphic design, so I was doing a lot of print design, and I actually did website designs. But part of doing a lot of those website designs made me curious on how the end product, because there would be a different programmer that would build out my designs. So I started to learn little bits and pieces that would allow me to help them, because I didn't want to design something that wasn't possible for them to build. I wanted to kind of give them as much help with that as I could, and eventually I just started picking up a bunch of little bits and pieces here and there, and at some point I actually ended up being the web programmer, and most of my resources for that were actually things I found online, so kind of similar to the websites that you guys are going to be learning from. I would look at websites like that and just kind of teach myself and then practice it real world until it kind of all came together.
For me, since I too didn't initially go to school for programming or anything like that, it was all design. But through design, I was working at the Post-Bulletin designing advertisements in the newspaper, and there was a lot of repetitive tasks that I ended up having to do on a daily basis. Just to kind of simplify my workload, I learned how to program to automate a lot of the stuff that I had to do, so I didn't have to do all the boring stuff every single day. I could just write a little code, and it would just do it for me.
I would say coding is a bit of a superpower. Specifically, I guess it's kind of like super speed in some points. Like Brandon was saying, you can automate a lot of your work if you learn how to program something to do that for you. Like in my work now, we spend a lot of time redesigning people's websites, but sometimes it'll take more time for us to go into a graphic design program and move all those pieces around through that program, and it's just actually easier for us to go into the code of the website and make changes directly to the website and go from there. So it definitely speeds up our work quite a bit, makes things a lot easier sometimes.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree that I would kind of consider it to be a superpower. just to be able to just write what looks like just random numbers and characters and see what it can do, how powerful it is that you can create websites, just making things like a microwave function, being able to have a timer, anything that you use on like a daily basis.
I've built a lot of websites in the past, and I think probably one of the coolest things is, like Brandon said, when you're writing out all the code, it doesn't look very interesting. It's a lot of numbers and letters, and it might not make sense to a normal person, but once you see what it actually produces and you can actually see the visual part of it, that's really cool. So being able to see my websites live on the internet and knowing that other people were using it and looking at it, that was pretty cool.
I have a kind of similar answer to Molly's. Yeah, just being able to work on a website and see other people using it and making purchases off of it. It's really exciting to see other people get excited about your work.
I think programming has helped a lot with kind of critical thinking and just problem solving overall. The cool thing about coding is there's never just one way to fix a problem, especially if you weren't classically trained, I guess, in programming, then you kind of find different ways about solving your problem. So that's probably the coolest thing about code is the answer's never the same, really. I mean, you can try a bunch of different things and get the same result.
For me, it's just the appreciation of the work and the people that go behind like everything you use on a daily basis, from using iPads to your laptops. Like I mentioned earlier, just simple things like a microwave. There's people behind that are writing the code to make it possible.
Definitely patience. Things don't always work exactly as you would expect the first time. It's kind of like a science experiment. You're going to be sitting there changing little things in there until you see what you want sometimes. And that's okay, because sometimes that's how you learn how to do something else, is by your mistake of doing something that you didn't mean to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, patience is a big part of it. Another important thing to remember is never be satisfied with what you currently know. There's so much in programming to learn, and the more you learn about it, the more you're able to do with it, and it just becomes that much more powerful. There's always new things coming up in the world of programming. There's always new things to consider, and it's exciting.
And I think, and maybe you'd agree, like you don't have to necessarily go to school to learn a lot of it.
Yep.
You can figure it out on your own or use the internet and different resources like that.
Right. It's definitely something that you can go and learn yourself. It's always good to have some basic understanding, but once you have a good basic understanding, there's a lot of it that you can go and learn on your own.
I actually grew up in Dodge Center.
I grew up right in Casson, so next door.
Have you guys ever programmed like a game that's really popular, like a lot of people use?
I haven't done a lot of game development. I've kind of been helping. I have a brother that's trying to make a game for phones, but it's not done yet, so.
What is it called?
Oh, I'm not allowed to say yet.
I haven't either. I made little games like as I was going through school. Never anything that got like released out to the public or anything. But when we're working on websites, we do work on some bigger websites where a lot of people do use it. So that's exciting.
But how many like games have you made?
We usually actually actually work more on websites and e-commerce websites, which those are like internet stores, like Amazon and things like that. Could be one that could be.
Do you guys know creators that have made really popular games? Do you know anybody that has?
Someone we work with is actually friends with, I can't remember exactly what the game is. I think it's a magic game. But yeah, there's a lot of people out there making games.
Any other questions?
What other websites have you coded on?
What are some of the websites? Things like skis.com. What are some of the other big ones? Trying to think of ones that you might recognize.
We worked on Safari.
On Safari. We haven't worked on Safari. Safari is a browser that displays the website. When we're creating and designing websites, we always have to consider how it looks in different browsers like Safari.
Any other questions?